Today we're covering section 1.6 of our BJU Press Pre-Calculus textbook over Law of Cosines. So we're going to prove the Law of Cosines, and then we're also going to apply the Law of Cosines. So the Law of Cosines is when you have a triangle where you have three angles, and across from those angles are corresponding sides. So little a goes across from angle A. Side little b goes across from angle big B. Side little c goes across from angle big C. And so you have this formula, a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc times cosine angle A. There's other forms of that formula. Let's say that you don't have angle A, but you have angle B, or you have A, B, and C, but you want to find angle B, then you can use b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac times cosine B. There's also a form where you have angle C, that's c squared equals a squared plus b squared minus 2ab times cosine of C. You can see that there is a pattern that you can use to memorize these formulas. So in order to use the law of cosines, you have to either have all three sides or the measure of two sides and the included angle. So let's look at example 1. We have triangle AFDG, so that means we have angles F, angle D, and angle G. And we have the measurements of the three sides. Side F is 8, D is 4, and G is 10. So the first thing we want to do is solve for one of our angles. Let's solve for angle F. So the only law of cosines formula that has angle F in it is F squared equals D squared plus G squared minus 2dg times cosine of F. So we'll go ahead and plug in our values for F, D, and G. And then we'll go ahead and solve for F. So the first thing we do is we do our squares, and then we do our 2 times 4 times 10. 16 plus 100 is 116. Notice how I do not do the 116 minus 80. I actually cannot do that because the 80 is attached to that cosine F by multiplication. So when I solve for cosine F, I actually have to subtract 116 from both sides. Then I divide both sides by negative 80, and I get 0.65. So if I want to solve for F, I have to do the inverse cosine. So cosine inverse 0.65 gives me approximately 49.46 degrees, which if I convert that to minutes is 49 degrees, 28 minutes. Now let's solve for angle G. So this time I have to use the formula that has angle G in it, which is G squared equals D squared plus F squared minus 2df times cosine G. So I'll go ahead and plug in my values, and I'm solving for angle G. When I do 16 plus 64, I cannot do the minus 64 because it's not just minus 64, it's minus 64 times cosine G. So I can only add 16 and 64 together. Then I subtract 80 from both sides, and then I divide both sides by negative 64, which gives me negative 0.3125. I do the cosine inverse of both sides, so that way I can get angle G by itself, and cosine inverse of negative 0.3125 is 108.21 degrees, which if I convert to minutes is 108 degrees, 13 minutes. Last thing I need to do is solve for angle D. Well, I know the entire triangle adds up to 180, so if I do 180 minus angle F plus angle G, then I can figure out what angle D is. So F was 49.46 and G was 108.21. I add those together and I get 157.67. Now I'm going to subtract them from 180 and I get 22.33 degrees, which if I convert to minutes is 22 degrees, 19 minutes. So here's a recap of the answers for example 1. Let's look at example 2. In example 2, I'm given an angle and I'm given two sides. So if I'm given an angle and two sides, I have to use the formula where the angle is given to me. So I'm given angle A, so I need to use the formula that has angle A in it, which is A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times cosine of A. So now it looks like I'm going to solve for side A. So I plug in angle A equals 63, and I plug in B equals 12, and I plug in C equals 9. I go ahead and do the math, following my order of operations. My last step is to square root both sides, and I get approximately 11.3. So now that I know what side A is, I can use the law of cosines to solve for angle C, since angle C has to be the smallest angle, since side C is the smallest side. So I'm going to use this proportion. Side A over sine of angle A equals side C over sine of angle C. So 11.3, which was side A, over sine of 63 equals 9 over sine of C. So I'm solving for sine of C. So I'm going to multiply both sides, cross multiply. So I get 11.3 times sine C equals 9 times sine of 63. I'll divide both sides by 11.3, and I end up with sine of C equals 9 times sine of 63 divided by 11.3. I'll do the inverse sine of both sides, and I get 45.2 degrees. So for my last angle, angle B, I just have to subtract angles A plus angle C. Well, angle A was 63, and angle C was 45.2. So 63 plus 45.2 is 108.2, and 180 minus that is approximately 71.8 degrees. So here's a recap on the answers for example 2. Let's go ahead and do a practice problem. Let's say we want to find angle A if side A equals 38, B equals 48, and C equals 68. So since I'm searching for angle A, I need to use the formula that actually has angle A in it, which would be A squared equals B squared plus C squared minus 2BC times cosine A. So when I plug in my values, I get 38 squared equals 48 squared plus 68 squared minus 2 times 48 times 68 times cosine A. So when I do my next evaluations, and then I'm going to subtract both sides by 2,304 plus 4,624, I get negative 5,484 equals negative 6,528. So I have to divide both sides by negative 6,528, which gives me 0.8401. If I want to solve for angle A, I have to do the cosine inverse. And cosine inverse of 0.8401, if I'm in degree mode, should be 33 degrees. Let's try another practice problem. This one, we want to find angle C. So we need to use the formula that actually has angle C in it. I plug in what I know, and now I'm trying to solve for angle C. I'm going to use my order of operations, and notice that I cannot just add 3,648 to both sides. I actually have to divide both sides by negative 3,648, giving me negative 0.2401. And then my last step to solve for angle C is to take the cosine inverse. And the cosine inverse of negative 0.2401 is approximately 104 degrees. So this is all for this lesson. Go ahead and try the problems now.